This episode discusses violence, domestic abuse, and the death of a young person. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Titusville, Florida. It's a city built around the water. It's nestled into the Space Coast. The air is thick with salt, and everyday life moves to the rhythm of the tides. By the time November rolls around, the brutal summer heat and the threat of hurricanes have finally passed. The weather turns perfect. It's peak season for an escape. And just a few hours south in Miami, the cruise terminals are packed with people ready to set sail and leave reality behind. For a little while, at least.
And when you step onto one of those ships, you're inside a completely self-contained system. Thousands of people. Restaurants, bars, pools, security teams, medical staff, surveillance cameras. Basically, a small floating city. But here's what most people don't think about. Once that ship leaves port, if there's an emergency situation, the answers don't come easy.
Yes, because in November of 2025, an 18-year-old girl named Anna Kepner boarded the Carnival Horizon with her family for what was supposed to be a much-needed getaway. A 6-night Caribbean cruise during her senior year of high school. But instead of coming home with good memories, she came off that ship in a body bag. And the full story of what happened to her has yet to be told. This is the story of Anna Kepner. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Ricky.
And this is Crime Salad. Anna Marie Kepner was born on June 13, 2007, to Christopher Kepner and Heather Wright in Titusville, Florida. And from the very beginning, the people who loved her say that Anna was bright and magnetic. Anna Banana, as her family called her, was a ray of sunshine. She filled the lives around her with the kind of joy that's hard to put into words. She was bubbly, funny, outgoing, and unapologetically herself. She didn't have a filter. And the people who loved her wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Whether she was standing in front of a mirror, trying out new makeup looks, even if she had nowhere to go, filming TikToks for fun, or blasting her favorite music out on the water, Anna lived her life with her whole heart. She loved the sun, the ocean, boat days, beach days, island days, anything that let her soak up the warmth of the Florida coast. Anna actually got her boater's license before she could even drive a car. She was PADI certified, that's the Professional Association of Diving Instructors, diving alongside her family and exploring the water she loved so much. She started gymnastics at just the age of 2 years old and continued well into her teenage years. And as she got older, she even helped teach younger gymnasts, showing how Anna was both outgoing and nurturing. And also, Anna loved her siblings deeply, and she made sure that they always felt it, whether it was taking them to the park, going to Halloween horror nights, or just finding any excuse to spend time together. She was always thinking about how to make someone else smile. She had a big, generous heart, the kind of person who would send random I love you texts just to brighten someone's day. She loved kids, dolphins, butterflies, arts and crafts, and doing puzzles with her Mima, who she was extremely close with. And Anna loved all kinds of music, everything except heavy metal, with a soft spot for Shawn Mendes. Anna was the essence of pure love, with an open heart and gentle spirit that extended to everyone. And in return, she was loved, taken care of, and had a good life.
And what gets me is that at 18, Anna already had a clear picture of what she wanted her life to look like. She had direction. She planned to go to the Navy after graduating and eventually become a canine police officer. She was a dedicated Georgia Bulldogs fan. She even dreamed of cheering for them one day. This wasn't just someone drifting. She was building something.
Exactly. She attended Titusville High School, where she was a proud member of the varsity cheer team, before later attending Astronaut High School. And now eventually, she found her home at Temple Christian School, where she was looking forward to graduating with the class of 2026. And Temple was a good fit for her. Her faith was an important part of who she was becoming. She attended youth group at the Grove Church and was baptized in May of 2025. And just 6 months after she was baptized, Anna boarded a cruise ship, expecting a few days of sunshine, music, and memories with the people she loved. But somewhere between leaving the shore and returning to it, everything changed. It was on November 2nd, 2025. Anna Kepner and her family arrived in Miami, Florida. They were ready to begin a 6-night Western Caribbean vacation. Sounds amazing. So that afternoon, they boarded the Carnival Horizon, one of Carnival Cruise Line's massive passenger ships. Carnival, founded in 1972, built its identity around affordability and accessibility, branding itself as the fun ships, a place where everyday people could experience luxury without the luxury price tag. And these ships carry anywhere from 2,000 to over 6,000 passengers at a time, with restaurants, bars, pools, security teams, medical staff, and surveillance systems. So basically everything you would expect from a small city. So at approximately 3:30 p.m., the Carnival Horizon pulled away from Port Miami. For Anna, her father Christopher, her stepmother Chantel, and her siblings, also her grandparents who came along, this was a start of an amazing family vacation. The family had booked 3 staterooms on the ship. Anna was assigned to stateroom 8367 along with her 2 stepbrothers, her 16-year-old stepbrother, who is named TH, and his younger brother, who was 14. The cabin had bunk beds and a single bed, and from what has been reported, the 2 siblings took the bunks, and Anna slept on her own in the single bed. Their parents, Christopher and Chantel Kepner, were in a nearby stateroom, and the grandparents were a couple of floors up in a larger cabin. According to Chantel, the teenagers had asked to room together, and the family gave them the option to switch any time if they ever felt uncomfortable. So over the next several days, the Horizon would make stops in Ocho Rios, Jamaica, Georgetown, Grand Cayman, and Cozumel, Mexico, the kind of excursions that seemed right up Anna's alley. On November 3rd, it was a full sea day, so there weren't any port stops. This was just a day to settle in as the ship made its way south toward Jamaica. And November 4th, the next day, they docked in Ocho Rios around 9 a.m. This gave passengers roughly 8 hours to explore, and by early evening, everyone was back aboard, and the ship continued toward Grand Cayman. Grand Cayman, it doesn't allow any large ships to dock directly, so the passengers were transported to shore using smaller boats called tenders, and they had until about 4 p.m. to explore before heading back. And that evening, the ship departed for its final stop.
And I want to point something out here. We're now a few days into this trip. The family creates this routine almost. Everybody knows where everyone sleeps, what time people come and go, when the adults turn in and when they don't. On a cruise, you develop a rhythm really fast. And if you're paying attention, you would notice the gaps in that rhythm.
November 6th, the Carnival Horizon arrived at its final port of call, Cozumel, Mexico. The ship docked at approximately 10:30 that morning, giving passengers the better part of the day to explore. And for many, this was the last full day of excursions before the ship turned back toward Florida. The next day would be open water. Well, that evening, Anna was with her family for dinner, but at some point during the meal, she left early, telling them that she wasn't feeling well, and she returned to the cabin to rest. Later that night, she came back out and rejoined the family briefly in the casino area. She even stopped to see her grandparents and told them that she loved them and that she would see them later. And then she headed back to her stateroom. At some point later, the 2 boys returned back to the cabin, and the younger brother changed his clothes and then left again, planning to take photos of the ship as it sailed through the Caribbean that night. And when he came back, Anna wasn't in her bed. But he didn't think anything of it. Maybe she had gone back out, maybe she walked around, maybe she's with the adults.
But the cameras tell a different story. Surveillance footage reportedly captured Anna returning to her cabin that night, and there is no footage showing her leaving again. So what happened inside stateroom 8367?
November 7th was the last full sea day. The ship was heading north across the open water toward Miami. And for an entire day, nobody raised any alarm. Anna was 18. She was on a cruise, and she's old enough to sleep in if she wanted to, skip a meal, do her own thing. No one thought twice. On November 8th, the Carnival Horizon was making its way back toward Miami. Anna's father, Christopher, and her stepmother, Chantel, gathered the family for breakfast, but Anna wasn't there. At first, maybe that doesn't feel alarming. I mean, it's the last morning, maybe she slept in, teenagers stay out late, crash hard. But as the minutes turned into an hour and then longer, her absence started to feel wrong. The family began searching the ship. They checked common areas, they asked around, trying to find where Anna could be, but it wasn't the family who found her. It was the cabin steward. That morning, the housekeeper entered stateroom 8367 to clean it. And what they found was something that no one should ever have to walk into. Anna was found underneath the bed. She had been wrapped in a blanket and covered with life vests from the cabin. She was deceased.
And I need you to sit with that for a second. She wasn't found in her bed. She wasn't found like she passed in her sleep. She was deliberately concealed under the bed frame, wrapped up and buried under life jackets. That single detail is what separates this from any other explanation. If this were a medical emergency, if this were an overdose, if this were anything accidental, her body would have been where it fell. You don't end up under a bed, wrapped in a blanket, covered in life vests by accident. That's someone trying to hide what they did and buy themselves time.
The Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner's Office would later determine that Anna died from mechanical asphyxiation. The medical examiner would list November 7th as the date of death. While the ship was still at sea, miles from the port, someone had killed an 18-year-old girl and hidden her inside her own cabin. And for hours, nobody knew.
And when something like this happens at sea, it's not like you can just call 911. The nearest police department could be hundreds of miles away. The ship has its own security team, but these are not homicide investigators. The FBI has jurisdiction over serious crimes on vessels, but they can't board until the ship reaches port. So the priority becomes containment, preserve the scene, limit access, and wait. And in this case, the Horizon wasn't scheduled to dock in Miami until later that day. So you've got a crime scene floating on the ocean, surrounded by thousands of civilians, and the people trained to process it are still on land.
And you can feel how the atmosphere on this ship must have shifted. I mean, one day you're out having fun on this fun ship. Kids are running around the pool deck, making memories, just having an amazing time. And the next, there's security posted in a hallway. People are whispering. And the reality that someone on board may have killed a teenage girl, it's a complete contrast of what this vacation was meant to be. That same day, Carnival Cruise Line issued an official passenger advisory letter to Anna's family. This letter informed them that authorities would be boarding the ship upon arrival to conduct an investigation, and that investigative activity would take place in the hallway near the stateroom. The family was given priority debarkation, leaving at 7 a.m., have breakfast, and be escorted off the ship by the Carnival team before the other passengers.
And here's what we don't know. What happened to that stateroom between the Discovery and the FBI actually entering it? Was the cabin sealed? Was the family moved? Was Anna's body left in place for the FBI to process? Or was she moved to the ship's morgue? We really don't know.
Yeah, and I really couldn't find those details, but those are critical questions when it comes to evidence preservation. And the public reporting doesn't answer them. What we do know is that by the time federal investigators actually set foot in that room, hours had passed since Anna was found, and whatever happened to her had started even earlier than that, the night before. And so, when the Carnival Horizon docked at Port Miami, agents from the FBI's Miami field office boarded the ship and took over the investigation.
And that's what made this so destabilizing for that community. An 18-year-old left for vacation with her family and returned to land in a body bag, and nobody could explain why.
By November 14th, a week after Anna was found, her family began preparing to lay her to rest, and a celebration of life was scheduled for November 20th. But even as those plans were being made, the public still didn't have clear answers, just where she was found and the general circumstances. Key details like exactly what happened in that cabin still hadn't been released. Then on November 17th, a new development emerged from social media. A man identifying himself as Martin Donahue, who claimed to be Anna's uncle, posted a public statement online on X, formerly known as Twitter. And in that post, he made serious allegations about what he believed happened to Anna on board the ship. He alleged that Anna had been killed by someone known to her. He described a series of violent actions and had claimed there had been a delay in telling others what happened. He also suggested that the truth would come out publicly during the planned celebration of life. According to his post, Anna was beaten, naked, strangled, wrapped in a sheet, and stuffed under a bed covered in life jackets. He said that the family knew who did this and remained silent, pleading that someone needed to do something about it. Later that same day, more information surfaced, and it wasn't from investigators, but from a court filing. An emergency motion for temporary relief was filed by Thomas Hudson. This is the ex-husband of Anna's stepmother, Chantel, and also the biological father of Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother, who we refer to as TH. And according to the filing, Chantel had taken her minor children on the cruise along with what the document describes as a stepchild of her paramour, referring to Anna, but the most significant claim was about one of the children on board. The filing states that the 16-year-old, identified in court records only by his initials TH, because he is a minor and he was considered a suspect in Anna's death. The document says that he had been taken into custody and later released. At the time, he was reportedly staying with a third-party family member. The filing also references another incident, an alleged violent altercation involving an adult child, which many assume to be Anna, because she's 18, Chantel, and Christopher Kepner. And Thomas alleged that the children had been placed in a potentially unsafe environment.
So now we have two sources, a social media post and a court filing, both pointing at the same person. And the filing adds something that the post didn't. It names an alleged altercation involving the adults. That means that we're not just looking at a single event in a stateroom anymore. We're looking at a possible dysfunction inside that family unit that existed before anyone ever stepped foot on that ship.
And remember, these are allegations made within a legal filing, not conclusions from investigators. As things are being investigated, speculation is also happening. At this stage, no charges had been announced, but it added context to what had seemed so random. And it's interesting to see from other family members' perspectives what they think may have happened. Later that same day, another court document was filed in Brevard County, this time by an attorney representing Chantel Kepner. The document was an emergency motion for continuance, a request to delay ongoing civil proceedings in Chantel's divorce from her ex-husband. According to the filing, the FBI was actively investigating what it described as the sudden death of 18-year-old Anna Kepner, confirming she had been found deceased on board the cruise ship. The filing also states that a criminal case may be initiated against one of the minor children who was on that cruise. Multiple family members were present at the time, and in response, Chantel invoked her constitutional right against self-incrimination, meaning she declined to provide testimony that could potentially be used against her in the criminal case.
And what that tells you is that someone's attorney has assessed the situation and concluded there is enough potential crime exposure, even if indirect, that speaking freely could be dangerous. It's a legal shield, not a confession, but it does tell you that the attorney sees real risk.
And now, because of the investigation, her attorney requested that all related civil hearings be postponed until the criminal matter could be resolved. Around this same time, a decision was made to place TH with a relative of his mother during the investigation. And the language used was to ensure the safety of the youngest child as well as the safety of others within the family.
Looking at this a little deeper, when the court starts moving children around for safety reasons, the allegations are serious enough. The surviving children need to be protected.
The filing also notes that T.H.'s father had retained legal counsel for him, specifically in connection with Anna Kepner's death. On November 18th, Chantel formally responded to Thomas's emergency motion, and while the filing reaffirmed what had already been alleged, it also introduced something new. The Florida Department of Children and Families had opened its own investigation, this one involving allegations of domestic violence by the father toward the two youngest children.
So now you're looking at a picture that extends far beyond that stateroom. A family with fractures in every direction.
Yes, not a good look. The next day, Anna's biological mother, Heather, spoke publicly about her daughter for the very first time. She described Anna as joyful, compassionate, and full of life, always happy, the kind of child who didn't complain, who smiled easily and brought light into every moment. She talked about Anna's love for horseback riding and cheerleading, about how she started dancing and gymnastics and grew into someone who carried energy and passion into everything she did. But even that came with complications. According to reports, Heather was told not to attend her own daughter's funeral, reportedly tied to ongoing tensions within the family and the investigation surrounding Anna's death. Despite that, Heather expressed her intention to attend anyway, even if it meant going unrecognized, wearing a wig and tall shoes just to be there. She later said that she did attend the memorial in secret.
A mother considering wearing a disguise to her own daughter's funeral. Whatever the family dynamics were before this tragedy, the aftermath was tearing whatever was left apart.
In the same news report, Anna's ex-boyfriend and his father were interviewed. They said that TH was obsessed with Anna, and that Anna was even scared of him because he carried around a large knife. Anna's ex had tried to warn the family about what he'd witnessed between Anna and TH, but according to him, he was shut down.
And that's one of the most repeated patterns in cases like this. Someone sees something, says something, and it gets dismissed. Whether or not those specific claims are verified by the investigation, the fact that someone felt strongly enough to speak publicly means there were warning signs that at least one person believed were being ignored.
On the morning of November 20th, while Anna's family was preparing to say goodbye, the legal fallout from her death was already playing out. Thomas Hudson's emergency motion was now in front of a judge, and during the hearing, new allegations surfaced that TH had been allowed to consume alcohol during the cruise, possibly because the ship was in international waters, and that proper supervision had not been maintained. Chantel's attorney pushed back, stating that surveillance footage from the ship showed no signs of alcohol use by the teens, and that the Florida Department of Children and Families had found no evidence of alcohol used in the home. Both sides intended to call multiple witnesses, including the parents, stepfather, and potentially TH himself, which would require a motion and court approval. The custody matter was not resolved that day and was postponed to a later date. The court also heard that TH had been briefly hospitalized for psychiatric observation following the cruise. A psychiatric appointment had been scheduled for the following month, but the judge cautioned against further discussion without legal counsel present.
So think about what that morning looked like for this family. You've got a courtroom arguing about whether the remaining children are safe. You got a judge telling people to stop talking before they say something that could hurt them legally. And in a few hours, those same people are supposed to stand in a church and celebrate the life of a girl at the center of all of this. That contrast, courtroom at 9 a.m., funeral at 5 p.m., tells you everything about where this family was.
Yeah, there's a lot going on this day. And just hours later, a celebration of life, it was held for Anna Marie Kepner at the Grove Church in Titusville, where she went to church. Her family asked attendees not to wear black. Instead, they were encouraged to come in colorful, casual clothing, especially shades of blue, Anna's favorite color, to reflect her energy and her love for life. Now, the next day, for the first time, details about how Anna may have died began to surface publicly. Now, we already heard this from the medical examiner's notes, but according to ABC News, an unnamed source described as someone briefed on the federal investigation shared what were said to be early findings. This source confirmed mechanical asphyxiation from another person as the cause of death, specifically from what was described as a bar hold, an arm placed across the neck. The report claimed investigators observed 2 bruises on the side of the neck, consistent with pressure being applied. This means that someone had strangled Anna to death.
And let's look at that closer. A bar hold, sustained pressure across the airway. That's not roughhousing that went too far. The body's natural response to not being able to breathe is to fight, to thrash, to do anything to survive. For this to result in death, the pressure had to be maintained throughout the entire response. Whatever happened in that room, it wasn't a momentary lapse.
Additional details in the report included that there were no initial signs of sexual assault, no drugs or alcohol were detected in Anna's system, and she had been found under the bed, wrapped in a blanket, and covered with life vests, confirming Martin Donahue's social media post. However, the FBI and the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office, they did not release any official autopsy or toxicology report since the investigation was still ongoing. So this is basically being heard through the grapevine. On November 22nd, Anna's grandparents, Barbara and Jeffrey Kepner, who were on the cruise with her, spoke publicly for the first time. In an interview with ABC News, they described the cruise as something that had been planned for a very long time. And at the beginning, everything felt normal. Anna seemed happy, enjoying time with her siblings. But when they talked about the last time they saw her, that night in the casino, when she told them she loved them and said that she would see them later, they had no idea it was goodbye. The next morning, they heard a medical alert over the ship's speaker system, followed by their granddaughter's stateroom number. Rushing there with Anna's father, they were told that Anna had been found deceased under the bed. They were overwhelmed and devastated. And when they learned that surveillance footage showed TH was the only person seen entering and leaving the stateroom during that window, they said it felt like they lost 2 grandchildren on that ship, Anna and TH.
And that detail from the footage is the most damning piece of evidence that's been made public. The only person the cameras captured going in and out of that room during the window in question was TH. That doesn't just point at him, it eliminates everyone else.
The grandparents were grieving, they were confused, and still felt an overwhelming need for answers. Even with what they knew, they still didn't know why this happened, and neither do we. All we had were the court filings. On November 24th, Chantal filed a gag order request in response to increasing media attention and claims that the press had been aggressively pursuing both her and her attorney, and the request asked the judge to silence and ban discussions of TH's case in public. At the same time, discussions were underway about the next court hearing. And the next day, on November 25th, Thomas Hudson's attorney moved to compel Christopher Kepner to testify at the next hearing on December 5th. That same morning, the court denied Chantal's gag order request, calling it facially insufficient.
Okay, let's break this down because there's a lot of legal talk flying around. First, a gag order. That's when someone asks a judge to basically put a muzzle on everyone involved. No talking to reporters, no social media posts, no public comments about the case, period. So Chantal goes to the judge on November 24th and says, "The media won't leave us alone. They're harassing me and my lawyer. Shut all of this down." And look, that can be a legitimate request in some cases, especially when a minor's involved. But here's the thing. The very next day, the judge comes back and says, your request is facially insignificant, which basically means the paperwork was so weak, so lacking in legal basis, that the judge could look at the face of the document and say, no, this doesn't even meet the bare minimum requirements for me to consider it. It's not like the judge weighed the pros and cons and decided against it. It never even got that far. It was dead on arrival. And then you've got Thomas Hudson's attorney, that same morning filing a motion to compel Christopher Kepner to testify. Now, compel is a strong word. That means Christopher wasn't volunteering to show up. Hudson's legal team had to go to the judge and say, we need this person on the stand and he's not cooperating, so force him to be there. That tells you something. Why wouldn't Christopher want to testify? What does he know that Hudson's side thinks is important enough to drag him into court? So you zoom out and you look at the bigger picture here. On one side, you've got Chantel trying to close the curtains and keep everything quiet. And on the other side, you've got Hudson's team trying to rip those curtains wide open and put more people on the record. And the court, at least on day one, sided with transparency.
Sometime before the December hearing, T.H. had his psychiatric appointment in the middle of a massive federal investigation and custody battle. The court was trying to figure out if the remaining children were in imminent danger living in that house because of what T.H. had been a suspect of doing. During the December 5th hearing, Chantel's testimony confirmed key details regarding what happened. She told the judge the teens all stayed together because they were best friends. She and Christopher Kepner were across the hall, and Anna's grandparents were 2 floors up. Everything was supposedly fine. She last saw Anna at 6:30 p.m. on November 6th and saw her son T.H. at 7 p.m. By 7:30, Chantel said she went to bed. Once she discovered that Anna had been found dead, she and Chris mutually decided that they should remove T.H. to protect the other children. She told the court, even if the feds close the case tomorrow, he is never coming back to the home. But because of the backlash, Temple Christian School unenrolled all the remaining children after the cruise. Chantel said it was because of the media attention.
To me, her saying, even if the feds close the case tomorrow, he's never coming back, that's someone who had already reached a conclusion about what her son did.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Chantel jumped to the conclusion that her son may have done something and probably did. Now, Chantel discussed TH's mental history as well. She said that he had been on Concerta and clotidine for years for ADHD and insomnia. Chantel admitted that she was the one holding the medications on the cruise and that he missed 2 doses of his nighttime clotidine right before Anna died.
And I need to explain why that matters. Clonidine isn't just a sleep aid. It's a central nervous system regulator. When you abruptly miss doses, you can experience what's called rebound effects. Extreme restlessness, physical agitation, increased impulsivity, aggression, and severe irritability. I'm not saying that the missed medication caused what happened, but it is potentially a contributing factor in understanding how something violent could escalate, especially in a teenager with a pre-existing condition. And if the person responsible for giving them that medication allowed it to be missed, that's going to be a significant question moving forward.
And while Chantel painted a picture of a close-knit family, her ex-husband told a very different story. Thomas testified that he hadn't seen his 2 younger children in 18 months, claiming that he had been blocked and that Christopher Kepner and his parents had physically interfered with custody exchanges. But during that hearing, Judge Studstill ruled that the emergency standard had not been met, and their 9-year-old daughter would stay with Chantel. However, the judge scheduled a contempt hearing for December 17th, since Thomas alleged that Chantel took the kids out of the country without his permission. By January of 2026, 75 days into the investigation, there were still no public updates from law enforcement. During the December hearings, Chantel's lawyer gave a glimpse into the delay, claiming that the FBI was playing a game of jurisdictional hot potato, deciding whether to keep the case federal or hand the evidence over to state or local prosecutors.
And that's a real problem in maritime cases. This case happened in international waters on a Panama flag vessel involving a Florida family discovered before the ship reached the Florida port. The FBI has jurisdiction, but they're weighing whether a 16-year-old should be prosecuted in federal court, a system built for adults, or whether the state juvenile courts are better equipped to handle it. Every day that decision drags on is another day without accountability.
While the agencies argued over paperwork, the personal fallout was getting really ugly. Leaked messages between Thomas and Chantel started from the day Anna's body was found, and it revealed that TH told them he couldn't remember anything from the events of that night. Thomas offered to take custody of their 9-year-old daughter, and in the beginning, their communication was extremely cordial and collaborative. But as media attention intensified, communication breakdowns started to happen. Thomas was worried about TH's exposure to the press, but Chantel insisted that nobody knew anything about the situation, and social media commenters were only speculating. By November 27th, Thomas was asking if their daughter could see her brother one last time, because it might be the last time they see each other for a very long time. And he knew that TH wasn't coming home. And somehow from there, it spiraled into Thomas fully believing that Chantel was putting her other children in active danger. He even said to her that he kept his mouth shut when she told him that she couldn't jeopardize her marriage for helping her son.
And let's stop there. If that statement is accurate, I can't jeopardize my marriage to help my son. That tells you where the priorities were in that household. Not truth, not accountability, not Anna, the marriage. And that's the part that people miss, because it means the response to this tragedy may have been oriented around protecting a relationship, not protecting the children involved.
In January, the FBI declined to comment. The U.S. Attorney's Office and the Miami-Dade State Attorney did not respond to requests for comment. Everyone was kept in the dark until February of 2026, 3 months since Anna Kepner was found on the Carnival horizon. For the first time, TH was seen in a federal setting when U.S. Marshals escorted him into the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. It was a closed-door hearing before a magistrate with his public defender, and the reason for that hearing wasn't totally clear since no complaint had been released, and it wasn't clear whether TH had been formally charged at this point. But the only people who seemed to have certainty of what happened and who did it were Anna's father and stepmother. Chris Kepner spoke to news outlets, telling them that TH was a normal kid, and he never would have thought any of this would happen. But Chris said that he wanted TH to face the consequences and would be fighting to make sure that happens. Chris and Chantel released a statement saying that Anna was taken from them in a violent and senseless way, that the loss permanently changed their family, and that their grief is so overwhelming. No parent should ever have to bury their child.
They also said that it was deeply painful and disturbing that the person responsible is able to walk freely. And that's the reality of the juvenile justice system. Because TH is a minor, he has protections that adults don't. Sealed records, closed hearings, restrictions on public identification. Those protections exist for important reasons. But for the family of the victim, it means watching the person they believe killed their daughter move through a system they can't see into.
In late February, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida officially charged TH with homicide and another redacted charge. This came to light through the ongoing custody battle. The attorneys cited the Kepner family's own social media confirming the charges. Because TH is a minor, the entire file is under seal. Federal law provides broad protection, so we won't see a public indictment unless the FBI moves to charge him as an adult. But law enforcement sources told CBS News that investigators believe Anna was killed during an altercation where the suspect may have been using alcohol, and that brings us back to the allegations of medication mismanagement. The missed clonidine doses, the potential rebound aggression, and the disputed alcohol claims.
You have a teenager with a diagnosed condition that requires medication to regulate impulse control and sleep. That medication is missed twice, right before an 18-year-old is found dead. Separately, you have allegations of alcohol use, which clonidine interacts dangerously with. Whether the alcohol claims are confirmed or not, the medication angle alone raises serious questions about supervision and responsibility that extends past TH himself.
Chantel told the court that her son is not welcome in her house because of his potential involvement in serious felony offenses. He's currently living full-time with his uncle in another county. Thomas even asked the court to stop his $640 per month child support payments since the uncle is the one actually paying for TH's food and housing. Thomas claimed that Chantel had only sent the uncle $200 in total. Meanwhile, the uncle is petitioning the court for more money, saying that he's the one supervising a federal murder suspect and he can't do it for free.
So, to be clear about what's happening, the person charged with Anna's homicide is living with a relative who isn't financially supported. The parents are fighting over money, and nobody in the system seems to be centered on the fact that an 18-year-old girl is dead. The family court and the criminal case are running on parallel tracks, and Anna's name keeps getting pushed to the margins.
Following the announcement of charges, online discussion exploded, especially on the Justice for Anna Kepner Facebook page. People were forming their own conclusions based on all the allegations and rumors circulating since the case began. One question kept surfacing. If the kids were so close, if they spent so much time together, why would TH do this to Anna? Anna's father actually responded, saying that he can't speculate on what TH was thinking or why he did what he did. He asked the same question, knowing he'll probably never get the answer. At the same time, different versions of Anna's life and her relationships began to emerge online. Some described a close bond between Anna and her stepmother, Chantel. They said the two spent a lot of time together after moving to Titusville, sharing inside jokes, music, and walks in the evenings. But other comments contradicted that, saying that the relationship wasn't what it appeared to be, that it was strained, and that Anna described her stepmother negatively. Individuals accused members of the family of withholding information, of TH disclosing to them what happened right after he did it. Others suggested there had been long-standing conflict in the household, and some posts included direct personal attacks on character and credibility.
And this is what happens when the public goes months without answers from the people who actually have them. People don't just sit with silence, they fill it. They take court filings, social media posts, interviews from ex-boyfriends, and allegations from estranged family members, and they build their own version of events. Some of those conclusions might be right, some might be completely wrong, but the vacuum is what created them.
Yeah, everyone starts forming their own opinion and different speculations and things like that. But from Anna's own perspective, her social media painted a different picture. In August of 2025, Anna made a public post discussing her relationship with her biological mother, describing emotional distance and referencing her mother's struggles with addiction. In the caption, she expressed gratitude toward her stepmother for stepping into a maternal role over the past couple of months. And just a few weeks later, Anna shared another post thanking the people she felt supported by, her stepmother, her father, her grandparents. From Anna's own words, at least at that point in time, she didn't seem to have ongoing problems with her current family situation. As more information came out, some people expressed sympathy for everyone involved, but others said they couldn't extend the same compassion to the adults in Anna's life, thinking about her last moments. People questioned whether anything could have been prevented or if there had been prior warning signs. Some concluded there was no way that this was the first time Anna had been in an altercation with her stepbrother, wondering why she didn't tell her parents. Others suggested that Anna may have confided more in friends than family, arguing that peers often know things parents don't. But others pushed back, saying it's impossible to know what was or wasn't shared, and that regardless of anyone's opinions, a family lost a daughter.
And here's the uncomfortable truth about all of this. Both things can be real at the same time. Chris and Chantel can be genuinely devastated parents who lost a child in the most violent way imaginable. And there can be legitimate questions about the household dynamics, the supervision on that ship, the missed medication, and whether the warning signs were ignored. Grief and accountability are not mutually exclusive, but online, people force you to pick a side. You're either defending the family or you're attacking them. And Anna, the actual victim, keeps getting reduced to a talking point in other people's arguments. It kind of sucks.
Chris responded to accusations in the group, saying that court filings don't always tell the full story and that details can be left out depending on how information is presented. He said social media users asked him directly about the claims made by Anna's ex-boyfriend, and Chris stated that the incident never happened, that there were cameras in the home, and the claim had been debunked by investigators and people close to Anna. Chris also talked about a significant falling out between the ex-boyfriend and Anna prior to her death, suggesting that some of the online statements could lead to defamation claims in the future. But nothing quieted the criticism. People called him a narcissist, said the only person they felt bad for was Anna. Chris pushed back, saying people were drawing conclusions without knowing the full context. And eventually, he and Chantel left the group. One of the moderators posted a message acknowledging that the tone had become cruel, that the group was created to support Anna, but the commentary had spiraled. They defended the Kepners, saying the family didn't owe the public anything, and questioned whether people had lost their sense of humanity. But others pushed back hard, saying that when parents enter public spaces in high-profile cases, they open themselves to scrutiny, and that public engagement could be an attempt to shape perception.
And a lot of the accusations that people keep coming back to didn't come from nothing. They reference Chantel's legal history, emails about emotional strain within the family, and allegations of withholding items that belong to somebody else. They also brought up Chris's own past, a sexual violence injunction filed against him in Brevard County in 2008 when Anna was just about a year old, which was later dismissed after a hearing, and allegations from a previous wife about physical and mental abuse.
And this is kind of a pattern when people go without answers. They take what they have and they form their own conclusions. But the truth of this situation is that someone lost their child, a child who, from Anna's own social media, loved her parents very much. Chris's final statement came on March 17th before he and Chantel left the group. And he said, Anna was amazing, loved by everyone, a straight-A student, and someone who was pushed to do good in her life. She loved her step-siblings more than anyone would ever know. He talked about a family vacation to Tennessee in 2024. No problems. So when the cruise came up, everyone agreed it would be a great idea. Because of Carnival's policies requiring adult supervision for younger passengers, they booked 2 rooms, a balcony suite and an interior room directly across each other. Anna, at 18, was given the choice of where to stay, and she chose to stay in a room with the boys. They were close in age and spent time together fishing, attending events, and traveling as a group. He couldn't discuss all details due to the ongoing investigation, but he maintained that much of what was being shared publicly was inaccurate. He addressed criticism against Chantel, saying that he does not blame her and stands by her. He acknowledged his personal flaws, but said he has been a constant in Anna's life, along with the extended family who helped raise her since she was 3 years old. Any allegations from Anna's ex-boyfriend that Chris knew about abuse were untrue in an attempt to gain notoriety online.
And that's the thing about the internet in cases like this. Everything gets brought up. Every court filing, every dismissed case, every old allegation. It all gets laid out flat and treated as evidence, regardless of the outcome or context. For the people posting, it feels like accountability. For the family, it can feel like a second devastation. And for anyone trying to understand what actually happened to Anna, it's just noise until the FBI speaks up.
What happens next depends on how the case moves through the legal system, including whether it proceeds in a way that allows more information to become public. Chris has made it clear that he plans to share everything he can once the law allows, and that the speculation will be put to rest. At the end of the day, despite his flaws, Chris suddenly and violently lost his daughter at, according to him, the hands of a stepson. I can't imagine what it must be like to live with that. What we do know is that Anna Kepner was 18 years old. She had plans and a future. She had people who loved her. And on what was supposed to be an amazing family vacation, her life ended violently.
And that part should never get lost in all of this. Not in the court filings, not in the Facebook arguments, not in the jurisdictional debates. An 18-year-old girl is gone.
By all accounts, Anna was a precious girl who was full of love and joy, and she didn't deserve what happened to her. No matter how it happened or whether it could have been prevented, she deserves to be remembered for who she was instead of what happened to her. She was a diver, a cheerleader, a sports fan, and an aspiring police officer. She had goals and dreams, and those were taken from her. We will keep following the case for updates, and we hope you do too, to keep Anna's name alive. Thank you all so much for listening to Crime Salad. If you want to hear more stories like Anna's, make sure that you leave a review and share this episode with a friend. Oh, and check out our new merch at crimesaladpodcast.dashery.com. We've got new springy type Crime Salad merch you got to get your hands on. And check out our Patreon for ad-free listens at patreon.com/crimesaladpodcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will catch you next time.